Okay, I'll call tonight's City Council work meeting to order. Is there a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tom seconds. Jack, can you take roll call vote, please? You're on mute, Jack.
Councilperson Arrington,
Yes. Aye.
Councilperson Urkel,
Aye.
Councilperson Ronning,
Aye.
Councilperson Plaisance,
Aye.
Mayor Boss.
Aye. So on to the first item, extension of no parking posting on Viking Boulevard.
Item number 3, staff has received a request to extend the posting of a no parking zone on Viking Boulevard between Isetta Street and Breezy Point Drive. Viking Boulevard is the county road, is maintained by the Anoka County Highway Department. A resolution requesting a no parking zone requires approval from the local municipality before the county consider approving the extension. The local approval is required as the city is the municipal law enforcement agency responsible for enforcement of parking restrictions. Currently, there is a posted no parking zone approximately 1/10 of a mile both east and west of the intersection of Viking Boulevard and Thielen Boulevard. Beyond this zone and in an easterly direction of Isetta Street, in the westerly direction to Breezy Point Drive, the shoulders on this section of road are used as overflow parking for the DNR boat ramp on Thielen Boulevard. On weekends during the summer and the Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day holidays, the small parking areas serving the DNR boat ramp can handle the parking demands, and excess parking spills onto Viking Boulevard outside the existing no parking zone. The shoulder parking creates safety concerns along this road due to the number of vehicles parked on the paved shoulder and the speed of the traffic on Viking Boulevard. This problem is particularly acute for the 4 residents east of the existing posted area and at the Norquist Campground entrance in the curve on Viking Boulevard between Breezy Point Drive and Thielen Boulevard. It is recognized that the extension of a no parking zone only addresses safety issues on Viking Boulevard. The availability of all-street vehicle trailer parking spaces is a related but separate matter that will have to be considered at some point as demand for recreational use of Coon Lake continues to expand. 2017 average daily traffic count on Viking Boulevard between County Road 15, East Bethel Boulevard, and County Road 17, Coon Lake Boulevard, ranges from 5,478 to 4,643 vehicles per day. Viking Boulevard has a posted 55-mile-per-hour speed limit. I'm going to share a few charts here to show you what some of the issues are. The one we're looking at now shows 4 of the residential entrances that are impacted by the allowance parking on Viking Boulevard east of the existing no parking zone between Thielen and Isetta Street. I went out and looked at this situation last Friday at approximately 12:30. And at that time, and I hope you can see the cursor, the parking on Viking Boulevard on the north side was past 42, 47. There were 14 cars parked from this point, the no parking zone, and 11 on this side. I think that Mr. Harrington went out and looked at this area on Saturday, and there were several more cars on this side. At times it has backed up to 43, 49, and has at times impacted the driveway entrance to 4350 Viking Boulevard. Going south, the major issue is parking in this curve, which obstructs sight lines. and also the entrance to Norquist Campground, which has approximately 60 camping sites located on their property. So we've had some complaints from some residents in this area, and their request is to have all of this section from Breezy Point Drive to Isetta Street, which is up here, posted as no parking, or partially posting so this is no parking. Particularly this area on the north side of Viking Boulevard, between the end of the no parking zone at Thielen, traveling east to Isetta Street, up to 4350 Viking Boulevard. Again, to do this would require the passage of a resolution by the city, which would be sent to the county. That would be then considered by their transportation committee, who would make a recommendation to the full board of commissioners.
Jack, did you have some other options too? You were gonna show?
Yes, let me show the one that's probably the least impactful for elimination of parking spaces. One more time. Here was the general recommendation that would address the whole situation. The major area of concern at this time, though, is the north side of Viking Boulevard that affects these three residents, and the south side or the southeastern side of Viking, which affects this residence. This is a distance of about 1,000 feet. The option with the minimal impact for removing all these parking spaces here would be this one would be to recommend posting from the end of the no parking zone on the east side of Viking Boulevard, approximately 1,000 feet on the north side, and approximately 300 feet in this area right here on either side of this driveway entrance to 4350 Viking Boulevard. And to post this area 300 feet either side of the entrance to Norquist Campground on the south side of Viking Boulevard. In total, this would eliminate about 38 parking spaces on the shoulder, but it will leave about 38 spaces remaining in the section on the north side of this curve and also on the south and the southeast side of Viking Boulevard from this point, the driveway entrance to 4350 Viking Boulevard. As you can see from this chart, there's only 24 spaces available in the DNR boat ramp. The city has posted Thielen Boulevard, its entire length is no parking. So for this side of the lake right here, there's only 24 spaces in a controlled trailer lot. The remainder of the parking overflows and spills onto Viking Boulevard. Also in the county park, there's only 50 spaces in that lot. So anybody that's been out on Coon Lake on the weekends in the summer, or especially on a holiday weekend, knows that the number of boats there is a significant amount.
Jack or Nate, what's the shoulder width on 22.
Shoulder
that-
width is approximately 8 to 9 feet.
We know those boat trailers can go up to 8.5 feet wide.
When I was out there on Friday, people were doing a real good job on the parking. They were actually it was primarily in this section right here. They were actually pulling off about a foot off the paved portion. So there was anywhere from about 3 feet from the edge of their vehicles, maybe 4 in some places, to the fog line on Viking Boulevard. The issue, I think, becomes pedestrians walking along a more narrow corridor here, the problem of people opening car doors into oncoming traffic, and then the issue of people trying to pull out when they're leaving. It takes about 45 to 50 feet to park a boat, vehicle, trailer. And with the speed on Viking, people driving to, especially this section here at 55, 60 miles an hour in the higher speed traffic, it does present some safety issues.
You know, I live in the neighborhood just to, it's almost on this photo. You know, and the folks that park along Viking, generally have done a decent job over the years. Like you said, Jack, they're just not on the shoulder. They're off the shoulder a little bit. And so it's, you know, that part of it, I've never seen a real problem. And kind of the nice thing is on that stretch east of Thielen Landing there, you got a long sight line on the highway. So it's very clear that, you know, there's boat trailers parked along the side of the road, and generally traffic kind of slows down general, but it's not a surprise to anyone on the road. To the west, it's a whole nother story because of that curve. And there's been, we've had more accidents on that curve than any stretch of Viking. Because there is kind of poor sight lines and people do drive fast, and you come around that corner, and like last weekend there was trailers parked. Usually there's no trailers parked there, but there have been lately. So and it just hasn't this year because everything's going on. I think it's been every weekend. It has been just a holiday weekends. So,
You know, one of the concerns is, are these 3 driveways located at this point, and this point, is that when vehicles park close to these, it restricts the sight line of people trying to pull out here. These were the areas, major areas of complaint that we had. Plus, we've had one of the curve southeast of here. I agree with you. What I saw last Friday, everybody was pulled over as far as they could get. And at this driveway here at 4247 Viking Boulevard, they were respectful of the driveway entrance. They didn't have it blocked, but it would be a little harder to pull out of your residence here if there were boat trailers and vehicles parked along this route.
I would agree with that. You almost need 100 feet of sight line in order to pull out of a driveway. So.
And, you know, maybe even another issue would be to have some no parking signs placed around these driveway entrances to provide them with better sight lines. It is a huge issue to accommodate the parking for lake use. There was some correspondence I had with the Anoka County Highway Department, which is included in your packet. The city of Columbus asked that the Lexington Avenue at the entrance to the county park be restricted as no parking. For the same reason, This was submitted to the County Transportation Board and they turned it down. Columbus did not pass a resolution. They just submitted a request. But part of the rationale behind the refusal to post a no parking for this situation was that it was going to seriously inhibit the ability of the public to recreate by limiting parking spaces. I think that one could be a more acute problem than this one right here.
Yeah, the county park entrance there, there's no shoulder, so those trailers were on the road. That area was a little more problematic.
But you know, a consideration here may be to have 3 little small no parking zones around these driveways and also this one right here. So they would have better sightline distance to pull out when things were crowded on the weekends and holidays. And also the same with the area down here south, especially at this entrance to Norquist Campground, you know, which is in the curve, it automatically has some restricted sight distance. But if you get tremendous overflow parking, and I don't know that it's ever backed up this much, but I think Mr. Harrington observed some vehicles in this area right here last Saturday. Is that correct, Tim?
Yeah, there were 41 vehicles and they were to the east there. There were probably 4 cars past that creek, 5 cars past that creek, the ones underneath 22.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty stacked up on Saturday.
The last request we got was just after the Memorial Day weekend, so I'm sure that was a big one too. So,
but you know, like I said, even last weekend, there were a lot of boat trailers on there. So.
So Jack, on Thielen Boulevard, going down to the boat ramp, that is our no parking signs?
That's correct, Randy. From this point, if you can see the cursor at the intersection of Thielen and Viking, down to the curve and down to almost where 189th Lane begins, all this is posted as no parking by the city.
Okay.
And again, though, this is a city street. The shoulders are not very wide, and but either the paved portion of the shoulder nor the first or class 5 portions of shoulder doesn't lend itself to vehicles pulling off. If they did, they would block the road in this area.
Okay. I guess my only concern would be I would prefer they were parking along Thielen than 22. But if there's no room, there's no room. Thanks.
When I recall when this issue came up, was it maybe 15 years ago? I don't know. Were you here, Jack, when this happened? When they before we put the no parking on Thielen, you know, obviously everyone parked along there, and it was a real mess. And then fire equipment couldn't get down there. It's how narrow the road is. And then we worked with DNR, and DNR expanded their parking at the ramp, and then acquired that property to put 6 parking spaces in.
Yeah, this one right here.
Yeah, so as part of that.
Yeah.
And then the no parking, because then everyone moved out to Viking, obviously.
Yeah.
And they were parking right up to Sportsman and really causing a problem. And we pushed those back. So I think anything we do here will likely lead to pushing that parking farther away. And so it may be pushing into other issues. I know some of those streets, I think Sportsman's posted, I know 195th's posted no trailer parking. Yeah. And we may have to expand those no trailer parking signs if that becomes a problem if we change this. But I can understand the residents along the north side of Viking, with those trailers. It's hard to pull out because you can't see. And some of them are parking right up to the driveways, so.
I have to say, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Suzanne.
Okay. I have to say, I'm mostly against the adding these no parking signs. I kind of agree with the email from Columbus that it's going to restrict opportunities for recreation. But that said, I wouldn't be opposed to no parking within like 200 feet of each driveway and only parking on the opposite side of the driveways. And that would only take what, 2, 4, 6, maybe 8 spaces instead of 38 spaces. Because I can sympathize with those residents, but I can also sympathize with all the other residents and people who like to recreate out there. And unless there's some kind of something in the works that we've got plans to increase that parking for that Thielen and the whole boat ramp area, I can't see us doing that. And it's only seems like it's only a few times a year that this is going on anyway, so it's not all the time. I guess that's all I have to say right now.
Okay, anyone else? Any other thoughts?
Yeah, you got to feel for these people, everybody, the boaters, the homeowners. Another problem that we wouldn't, I think of it because I'm a boat person. When all the parking's jammed up like that, you still have to go get your boat off the launch, the landing spot. And then you got it, once you get in that area, you got to wait for whatever to get yourself turned around and everything, get backed in for your boat. And there's always somebody that's going to cut you off and take the spot. It's a mess. It's a mess. When they get themselves unloaded and put on this highway, they have anywhere from half an hour to an hour wait to get back out of the water. Once they're ready to go try to get back out of the water.
From my place, I can see the county boat landing on the east side of Coon Lake, and those boats line up, and they, the ones that know leave early enough so they can get out. But it is kind of I've seen the Thielen too, and it's worse at Thielen. Everyone trying to get in and out at the same time. So
yeah, and there's 2 launches at the county one.
Well, there's the DNR launch here at Thielen, and then there's the county launch over at the county park.
There's 2 lanes at the county, 2 lanes to use.
Well, there's 2 lanes at Thielen too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there is, but it's still pretty tight in there. So. From my perspective, from a safety aspect, the parking along Viking to the east, I don't think it's too problematic there, other than those residents trying to get out. And I think there's probably something we can do to restrict that parking in front of their places. But that west side and that curve, this last weekend isn't the first time there's been boats and trailers parked there or close to it. And like I said, when you come around that corner, that curve, it kind of surprises drivers. So I'd be more supportive of taking that all the way to Breezy Point and say no parking, just purely from the safety aspect.
What's it look like on, I can't see the map, none of us can, I guess. West of Breezy Point, is there any opportunity in that area?
Well, that's a straight shot then, and I can just about guarantee you what's going to happen. All this is going to do is push the parking out farther. You know, from from the years of when I used to go Lake Minnetonka, it was crazy trying to find parking there. You know, and but it doesn't stop people from going to the lake for the most part.
No.
Just
sure
make
doesn't.
just makes it a little more inconvenient. So.
Oh, that would increase danger to pedestrians walking longer distances and being even those people being hit by a very fast driving vehicle, especially if they're walking in groups.
Well, right now they're walking around the cars and walking out of the shoulder. You know, if the shoulder was wide open, I mean, you're right. It's still on a busy road, but at least you're not blocked by vehicles and trailers. So.
Well, I would still like to see this come to council around the curve as a no parking zone. And I mean, I'm willing to discuss at least the north side of 22 as a no parking zone, especially for the residents who are there. I mean, we just had a recent incident along this zone where somebody was trying to make a U-turn with a trailer to go pick up their boat. So I think that is definitely a concern. I appreciate the fact that, you know, we would like to do as much as possible to provide parking for those who would like to enjoy Coon Lake. However, I think we also have to keep in mind the residents who live there and, you know, what their rights are as to, you know, not having people park basically on their lawn. And also the, you know, providing safety for people who are driving along 22. So my feeling is that we should be bringing this to council to make a motion to send this to the county.
Food for thought, if it does go to the council, it would be helpful to have an idea how many feet we're talking about, approximately how many spaces would we be adding? Would that be adequate? Would it be short? Would it be too much? So we'd have a little more information to talk about. Just in general, leave a little bit of space between the vehicles. Some people have little fishing boats, some people have the Titanic with them. So you almost have to average about 38, 40 feet for the length of a vehicle and the space between vehicles, maybe even more.
To
I
your
was
point,
doing the math earlier and using that 1/10 of a mile, 528 feet to a tenth. And if you go to each way, that's 1,056 feet. And at 40 feet, that gives you 26, 13 each direction for 26 trailer vehicles, approximately.
yeah. To your point, at the landing at Thielen, the trailer vehicle spaces are 50 feet long. The ones at the county park are 48 feet. And that doesn't include any additional footage for negotiation and trying to pull out. So, you know, I know that there's different sizes of trailers, so probably a better average would be at least 50 feet for each vehicle trailer space.
Yeah, wouldn't hurt me. If I was there, I'd be 50 feet easily.
Yeah,
My only Oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Tim. Go ahead, Tim.
I kind of agree with Steve. I'd like to at least see that Breezy Point from Thielen to Breezy Point, because that curve is dangerous. If we go the other way, like I said, maybe the north side. And I was gonna ask, Jack, I was gonna ask you, has the DNR been contacted at all about, this problem? I know that's their ramp. Have anybody contacted them at all? About doing
No,
anything, or-
we haven't contacted them. The DNR does own a little bit of property east of their existing parking facility on Thielen, but it might be enough to add about 6 spaces. Other than that, they have no really room to expand their facility at all.
But I do think that if we're gonna have intelligible conversation about this, we should have some data to work with so we know we're not gonna get beat up over why are you even talking about it if you don't have any place to put vehicles.
Well, I think by posting no parking to the west along the curve, there's only been a few times where I've seen trailers parked on that side. It's not often. Most of the time, because when you think about it, someone pulls out of the boat landing, they want to park. They're not going to take that sharp left and park on the inside curve. They're going to go right and park down Viking. Or what a lot of times they do, they'll turn around then, so they're at least facing back towards the landing when they go to leave, and that's kind of the problem. They're in front of those driveways. When you get, in terms of shifting where these folks park, they may go past Isetta, but that whole stretch, there's no driveways on that stretch on the south side.
Yeah.
There's a few driveways on the north side, but there's none on the south side. And my place is just to the north there. So, and again, there's plenty of shoulder room. There's plenty of actually room off the shoulder too. So, that's a far safer alternative. It's far safer alternative than parking the trailers in front of these driveways. And so I don't think it's going to be a monumental effect if we extend the no parking on the north side and then include the curve. I don't think it's going to be a huge effect on these folks that are parking. So, but I agree with Randy, to bring this to council.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything more to discuss on this? All right, move on to item 4.
Item 4, reopening the discussion of city council live meetings. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, city council meetings have been virtual since April the 6th, 2020. This schedule was adopted for the safety of the public, the council, and staff. With Governor Walz's limited reopening of non-essential business with safety protocols on June 8, 2020, the reopening of City Hall for normal business on June 9, 2020, and the resumption of live meetings in other cities, the council directed the discussion of returning to in-person meetings be brought forward to this meeting tonight. The following is the status of other cities in relation to live meetings. The city of Cambridge returned to live meetings on June 15th, 2020. City of Blaine is returning to live meetings tonight. Theirs is going to be a hybrid variation in which there will be some that remotely log in at their own decision and some that will be personally present in attendance. The city of St. Francis is discussing the possibility of returning to live meetings, but they haven't made a decision. Spring Lake Park returned to live meetings on June the 15th. Ham Lake did not discontinue their live meetings during this pandemic situation. The city of Oak Grove returned to live meetings on May the 11th, and the city of Isani returned to live meetings on June 16th, 2020. In discussing this item, council should consider, number one, the continuation of the suspension of the public forum for the time being, as this will keep the attendance to city council down to a level that can accommodate social distancing. City council chamber seating arrangements have been designed now to keep chairs 6 feet apart to comply with social distancing requirements, with the exception that related couples could sit side by side. Policies for mask, desktop plexiglass dividers for the dais seating if so desired, provision for staff seating when the chamber occupancy and staff presence exceeds 14 residents, overflow resident seating area outside the council chambers for more than 14 residents, or means to view meetings electronically and be able to comment either through the broadcast platform, email, or phone, protocols for cleaning the council chambers after meeting, and our broadcast capabilities, which would preclude us really from having a hybrid situation, and any other items which council would wish to discuss in relation to the return to live meetings. Staff is seeking direction from council as to the resumption of live meetings. Along with the consideration of the return to live meetings, council may wish to address the reopening City Senior Center and Whispering Aspens Community Center for uses that can comply with social distancing and occupancy requirements.
Okay. What's everyone's thoughts?
For all of me, when it's time, it's time. But, whatever.
Suzanne?
I'm ready to go back. Whenever I can go back next meeting, I'd be happy to, but I am not wearing a mask in a meeting. I can't even talk and communicate with those things on. And if we want to stay like this, that's kind of fine with me too. I'm pretty happy either way, actually. Smile.
Well, that's good then. Tim?
I guess I'm kind of tied between both of them. I'd like to see it open back up. There's some people do like to go to the meetings, and they're getting kind of sick on TV from what I'm hearing. They're getting sick of the TV stuff. So, but if we do, there are some safety things here that I'd like to see. Like the 6 foot spacing. I don't think you have to go with the plastic things in between. I thought it worked pretty good with the last when we did it 6 foot last time, and just keep the public forum down and things like that. But it's like I said, I'm just one person. It's up to everyone.
Well, some considerations in somewhat of a confined area. Nobody is facing anyone else. So it's not like it's about as good as you can get without having a panel in front of you.
Yeah, and what did they say today? Now this coronavirus can be traveled through the air instead of just on, material stuff. So, if you're gonna get it, you're gonna get it.
Well, I brought this up to Jack a little bit ago, primarily because of, although the Board of Justice meeting went pretty good, some of our other meetings, we've had a lot of trips during the meetings, and and not to say it didn't happen during regular meetings too with the electronics and the visuals and things, but my concern is council hasn't had anything yet where we've had an application or something to consider that would have a lot of people there, but planning has. You had 5 public hearings last month. Is that what it was?
I think it was 7.
7. Okay. So how did that go?
Actually that worked really well. We had the same setup that we used for the Board of Adjustments and Appeals meeting, and no one showed up for it. There were invites that were sent out to each one of the people that were subject to the public hearing, 5 of them actually logged in electronically and participated that way from a remote location.
Okay, but we didn't have any public for any of them?
Nope, there was nobody that showed up in public over at the senior center to use the public computer to speak to the planning commission.
Jack?
Yeah, and that is correct. We did have a couple people that called in regarding the public hearings, but no one showed up.
Jack, or Steve, anybody, have you heard any comments about this format that we're using versus at the chambers?
I haven't heard a thing from anyone actually, positive or negative, so.
I'm like Steve. I haven't heard really any negative nor positive comments. Most of the questions that I've got are, when are you going to return to live meetings? And they haven't rendered an opinion either way as to the this platform we're using.
I think the comment that I've heard is some people have been concerned about the public forum, which to me would be a nice thing to have. However, the current format does not stop anyone from contacting anyone, either at City Hall or any of us as council, to express their concerns about, what may be going on. As for, having live meetings, again, I would be willing to do that, with a consensus from council. However, I'm still kind of concerned, especially with the recent uptick in other states with the virus going on, as to whether or not, we should go back to live meetings, or whether we should do a hybrid, which is maybe some people showing up at council, some people actually remoting in for those meetings, and then allowing maybe some public engagement, those factors. I mean, if we were to do a hybrid, which is maybe having 2 or 3 council members in chambers, which then would allow more people to actually engage city council when we have maybe some items that require, members of the public to actually come into city council, to me might be a better arrangement than, maybe what we're currently doing. But, as for wearing a mask in council, I would have no problems with that. I mean, as for myself and the rest of my family, we would be considered, high risk. So again, I don't have any problems whatsoever with, taking extra precautions in order to make sure that we are all being safe going forward. So along those lines, I leave it up to council to come together and decide what is best. And that's all I have. Thanks.
I guess kind of the way I'm looking at it is, we have a choice, and there's nothing pressing us to go back to live meetings other than perhaps the feeling that we're no longer restricted, which we actually will still be. But so if we have a choice to continue in the way we're doing this, and I think it's functioning fine. I don't think we've lost anything in terms of public engagement, other than a few folks that wanted and have regularly been audience to the council meetings. I don't think we've really lost anything. So I guess my preference would be to continue what we're doing, and then along those lines, just try to keep improving on our connections and some of our presentations, those little trip points. So,
Jack, is the chief here still?
Yes.
Mark?
Without naming names, can he speak to what kind of experience the community has with this? You know, we're just assuming nobody gets. Are there any coronavirus experiences in the community? It gives you it gives you a little bit of an idea what is out there right now. If we're not sick, we don't think anybody is.
There have been
Pardon?
cases of positive confirmed testing of some of our residents. Up until 2 weeks ago, we were getting numbers specifically for East Bethel. Now those numbers are consolidated with Linwood and Columbus. Right now, there's 19 confirmed cases. I think that was the count as of today within those 3 cities. So I can tell you that East Bethel has had 13 or more cases of the virus, confirmed cases.
No lost personnel here. No fatalities.
I can't specifically address that.
I can appreciate that. It's part of what that information does is tell us that it is alive and well. It's active out there.
So I'm not hearing a push to go live meetings at this point.
I'm sorry, I kind of agree with what you just said about this.
So consensus seems like we're going to continue.
If,
All right.
sounds good.
Yeah.
If people aren't happy, you'll have 20 people in to listen to one guy complain. If everybody's happy, you won't hear a word. That's just the way it goes.
I don't have a problem with it either. The only problem I got is the last meeting on that closed session. There was a lot of trouble on a computer. Is that something that can be fixed, or I don't think it's my computer, but we were going out. I was losing people. I couldn't hear, and I just wonder if that's something that we have to work on to fix if we have to go into another closed session.
Well, part of the issue with that was lack of bandwidth capacities for some of our remote connections. Apparently there was a lot of use that night. The weather can have an influence in that. There's lots of factors external that we don't have any control over. So, you know, we're like Steve said, we're working to try to improve the quality of these virtual meetings, but there are some circumstances that come up that are going to pose us some problems that we're not going to be able to address.
Yeah, like Tim, you must have a really good connection tonight because the video and the audio is very clear, but for a lot of times yours is not. So, because you're on CenturyLink, right?
Yep. Yes, I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah, you're one of the Midco desert areas. So, well, I think we just occasionally just keep thinking about it, and maybe there'll come a time where we want to go back to live here. So, but doesn't seem to be a push for it. So, all right, we'll move on to item 5.
Item 5.0, liquor license credit. At the June 1st, 2020 City Council work meeting, Council discussed the potential for offering a credit or similar reimbursement to liquor license holders that were impacted during the COVID-19 related shutdown. Council favored the concept in an effort to support East Bethel businesses to recoup during this difficult time. Governor Walz announced the closure of bars, restaurants, and other venues for dine-in service effective on March 17, 2020. This was not lifted until June 1st, 2020, at the beginning of the phase 2 of the governor's Stay Safe Minnesota plan. While delivery and takeout services were allowed during this time, there was not a viable option for many of our existing businesses holding current liquor license to conduct on sales. Although all businesses may have been affected to some extent, those with these licenses for consumption on site were forced into closure for a longer time period. There are 8 businesses in East Bethel that hold an on-sale liquor license. The license fee for an on-sale liquor license is $3,500 for the 12-month period running from July 1st to June 30th of each calendar fiscal year. Locally, most of our neighboring cities haven't made a decision on how much to charge or what to offer for credit or licensing fees. Many cities throughout greater Minnesota have made a decision to offer up to 25% credit or reimbursement to their license holders. As noted above, East Bethel on-sale license holders were closed from March 17th to 2020. This closure was for 2.5 months or 21% of the term of their 2019-2020 license. If East Bethel should consider a credit or refund to an on-sale license holders based on this period of closure, the cost would be $5,880 or $735 for each license holder. Attached in your packet is a list of the 8 on-sale holders that currently possess this license. These are Blue Ribbons Pines Disc Golf Course, DJ's Bottle Shop and Bar, Imagine East Bethel Theater, Hidden Haven Country Club, Moonshine Whiskey, Route 65 Pub and Grub, Smoky's Pub and Grill, and Viking Meadows Golf Club. So what we are providing here is information on what the cost would be to either offer a credit for next year's license or a rebate or refund on this year's license.
That sounds like a really nice idea to give the business owners, let them know that we're thinking about their problem and not waiting to hear something from them. We're trying to be proactive.
Jack, the list is currently before us as Viking Meadows Golf Club at $2,040 rather than the $3,500 for the off-sale year license. So that is already currently a reduction for those months that were a part of the COVID-19 exemption. Is that not correct?
No, that's their license fee beginning July 1st of this year to run through June 30th of next year. So they were affected by the closure from March 17th to June the 1st when they paid their $3,500 for their 2019-2020 license.
So then they would not be affected by the current exemption that we're talking about. Is that correct?
No, they would be for next year, but it would be at 21% based on what the closure rate was for this year. Let's say that there was another closure this year and it lasted for the same period as the one that was previously enacted, then they would qualify for 21% or a little over a $400 credit or rebate on their license.
Okay. I don't have any objection moving this to council and giving a benefit for the liquor license cost for those times that, we have this exemption of closing down bars and restaurants for liquor sales, either for this year or in future months that may require the same exemption. Thanks.
Yeah, I would agree. Although I think I'd hold off a little bit on whatever future. I think we can address that if it happens. Hopefully there won't be another shutdown, but yeah, I think it's a good way to help support our businesses. So, I mean, many of them, scrambled to do takeout and whatnot during that time, and it's good that they all kind of hung in there too. So.
You gotta feel bad for them when they're doing this takeout stuff. I can't help but wonder if they're generating enough revenue to pay the light bill.
I know one of them for a fact was doing much better because of it. It was crazy how busy they were. So I think they still are. So. But
Statistically,
and that's a reflection of our community that came, together. And I know we eat out twice a week now, and we never do that. So,
Well, but there is a difference between the cost of an on-sale license as compared to an off-sale liquor license. So,
oh, right.
I mean, those that are actually taking advantage of the off-sale at this point, that is not what we're considering. What we're considering is the on-sale that is the difficulty at this time.
No, I understand, Randy. I'm just saying some of these with the restaurant portion being closed, it's affected their business. So I think it's a good thing. So are we good with bringing this to council? I see consensus. All right.
Just food for thought. They're
Go ahead, Tom.
predicting 1 in 5 businesses will not come back from this. Roughly 20% of the businesses out there are not making it. It won't survive.
We're gonna do our little part to help them. So
Yeah, good for us. Good for them.
okay. 2021 proposed budget discussion. Jack.
At this time, Mike Jaworski will present an overview of the draft preliminary 2021 budget for council discussion and review. Mike?
Thanks, Jack. The City Finance Committee met with city staff on April 29th, May 14th, and June 29th to review and discuss the 2021 budget inputs and assumptions. This Finance Committee also discussed the city general fund balance, the actual city financial performance for the past 2 years, and the city's overall debt service requirements. After the initial Finance Committee meeting, the base budget was submitted to the department heads for preparation of their individual department budgets. Based on inputs from both the Finance Committee and department heads, the overall 2021 proposed general fund expenditure budget is projected to increase by 5% or $273,700. This expenditure increase would then result in a corresponding levy increase, a general tax levy and debt service levy of 2.2%, or $130,700 in order to balance the 2021 budget. The 2021 budget model currently reflects the following inputs, which are also the primary drivers for the overall projected increase in the levy. Per the union contract, 2.5% COLA increase for 10 union and 10 non-union employees, or a roughly $73,000 aggregate increase to the budget. Per the union contract, a $1,300 per month cafeteria contribution. Again, that's increased from $1,200 per month. And that's roughly a $24,000 aggregate increase to the budget. There's a reallocation of recycling fund salaries to the general fund, which is roughly $19,000. There's also a fire department proposal for a 12.5% rate adjustment increase for the 35 paid on call firefighters, which is roughly an $18,000 aggregate increase. There's also a fire department proposal that is included in this budget to add 1 FTE to the fire department, which is currently in the budget, the 2021 budget model for a $95,000 aggregate increase. Within our supplies category, there's an 11% increase or $18,000 increase to street maintenance supplies. That's primarily made up of the salt expenditure. Under contracted services, the current budget model has 1% or $12,000 increase to the police contract. That's an estimate now from the Anoka County. There's also a 4% increase or a $2,500 increase to the city assessor contract. Again, that contract ends at the end of the fiscal year we're looking at the budget at 12/31/21. And then we also have a 4% or $6,000 increase to the city attorney contract built into this budget model. The only different transfer amount for our equipment replacement, street capital, and building capital, and our park capital. So we're only proposing a $5,000 increase to our park capital, which is a 6% increase. And then under our debt service, we are only proposing a 65% or $115,000 decrease to our 2008 bond issue. We are also proposing a 3% or $17,000 increase to our 2015 A bond levy. I'm going to share my screen here. Again, the budget timeline as to where we are at this point on 1/2/2020, the budget model was created. And then we had 3 successive finance committee meetings to discuss the budget model. On May 1st, the budget inputs were submitted to the department supervisors for their input. And then tonight now, the city council work session, we're having to discuss the 2021 budget. Some of the financial highlights that we discussed at the finance committee, again, our general fund 2019 performance, which was presented when we had our audit presentation by Abdo Eckenmeyers. One of the highlights they noted was revenues were at 103% of budget for 2019. And our expenditure budget was at 102% of budget. Again, those are indicators that we do a very good job outlining actual expenditures versus our budget. At the end of 2019, it was also noted that we had $3.1 million or 53% of fund balance in relation to our 2019 budget. Again, our goal is to have 30% of the next year's expenditures. So again, we're well in line with that goal. We also have continuous clean audit, annual audit opinions. We have a very strong bond rating at AA2. We've also approved the union contract through 2022. And then we also have a TIF 1-1 projected to be satisfied in 2020, and which will be then on the tax rolls into 2021. Again, from a high level standpoint, the proposed 2021 budget sees a 5% increase from 5,740,800 in 2020 to 6,014,500 in 2021. And that same, again, in order to budget, to balance the 2021 budget, that same increase is expected for the expenditures. In order to balance the budget, then again, we look at the general fund levy and the debt service levy. The general fund levy is projected to increase by 5% from 4,836,000. And in 2020 was 4,607,300. The debt service levy, again, the 2008 bond issue is reaching the end of its useful life. So we were able to reduce that levy by 65%. So the levy actually is dropping for our debt service. Again, going from 1,202,500 in 2020 to 1,104,500 in 2021. So overall, again, our proposed levy at this point for 2021 is projected to increase by 2.2%, or go from 5,809,800 to 5,940,500. One of the questions we get all the time then is what would that 2.2% levy increase mean to these house values? Again, these are estimated figures at this point, but an estimate for a $250,000 value home, the 2.2% levy increase would mean roughly a $28 annual increase. A $300,000 home would mean roughly a $34 increase. And then a $400,000 home would mean roughly a $45 increase. Now, when we look at the budget again from a program standpoint, we see that the general fund or the general government category is projected to increase by 4%, from 1,124,400 to 1,166,400. The Community Development Department, and again, each one of the department heads are here to answer specific questions about their particular budgets, but I'll just go over it on a high level at this point, and then we'll have time for questions after this segment. The Community Development Department, again, their budget is projected to increase by 2%. Again, that the budget captures all expenses related to building inspection and planning and zoning. Public safety, again, that category captures all the expenses related to the fire department and our law enforcement contract. That is projected to increase by 7% from 2,061,000, or sorry, from 1,917,900 to 2,061,700. Engineering, again, we're proposing that remains the same at that $40,000 mark. Our public works expenditures, again, that captures all expenses related to the park maintenance and street maintenance expenses. That's projected to increase by 5%, going from 1,440,600 to 1,509,800. And then again, that transfers to other funds. That captures all of our transfers to fund streets, parks, and building. And again, the only expenditure increase we are proposing at this time is a $5,000 increase to the parks category. So that accounts for that 1% change. The employee summary again for 2021, we would have 21 full-time employees proposed here. That's going up from the 20 we had in 2020. That one additional staff is from the fire department. The staff tenure, again, we have a max tenure of 24 years. We have a minimum tenure of 1 month. We had actually an employee just start 2 weeks ago. And then our average tenure for staff is roughly 9 years. Again, this budget proposes a 2.5% COLA increase, which is outlined in the approved union contract. We also propose a $1,300 monthly cafeteria contribution, which is also outlined in the approved union contract. And then also there are 5 full-time employees that are eligible for step increases. Again, all this is built into the 2021 budget model. We also budget for the mayor and 4 city council members, 35 paid on-call firefighters, 1 part-time cable technician, and 2 seasonal public works employees. Again, our debt service at the end of 2020, we will have roughly $17.1 million in outstanding principal balances. That is comprised of 4 different bond issues. Again, there's little change on the expenditure side. Again, the 2008 bond is reaching the end of its useful life and will become defeased in the next few years. Again, the expenditures go from $1,220,585 in 2020 to $1,123,175 in 2021. I've already touched kind of on the contracted services that are proposed for 2021, but again, a 1% increase to the law enforcement contract for 2021, a 4% increase to the city assessor contract for 2021, a 4% increase to the city attorney contract for 2021. Also within your budget book, there are the other 2 levying authorities within the city is the EDA and the HRA. These 2 levies have been approved by their respective commissions at this point. The EDA levy is projected or proposed to increase by 7% or from $113,500 to $121,200. The HRA levy again is proposed to increase by 11% from $62,600 in 2020 to $69,500 in 2021. With that, I'm going to open it up for questions, and maybe we can go, we can kind of start with the community development department as far as any questions you may have on their specific line item budgets.
Hey, any questions for Stephanie at this point?
I have questions, but hold on, I've got to kind of figure out where to go for community development. Do you know what page we're talking about? Because I wrote notes on all of this stuff on different pages.
22.
3.
Of the budget book. That's where it starts. 44 of our packet.
I don't think I have any questions on this one.
Anyone else? Stephanie gets off easy tonight, but there's still a few more meetings, so. What department next, Mike?
How about we go to Public Works?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. We can start with the park maintenance operations budget. It is page 44 on the budget packet or page 65 in your council packet. Anybody have any specific questions or anything in there?
So, Mike talked about the salt issue we had last year. More specifically, what is the issue?
Sure. That's on the street maintenance budget. That would be under line item 224. We had a huge increase in our salt prices last year. Our salt is spread out over 2 seasons, so it actually falls in 2 different budget years. So the last one we had covered 2019 in the fall and then the spring of 2020. Most of that salt came out of the 2019 budget. We didn't have very much after the year. The salt quantities were very limited last year, so we were not able to go above what our bid amount was. Typically, when we bid on salt, we can go up to 120% of that amount at the maximum at the guaranteed price, or we can go as low as 80%. So that's our minimum requirement to purchase. We try to pick a number that's going to fall somewhere in the middle and give us a little buffer on each end. Last year, we were not able to go over that amount. Luckily, the winter kind of died off and we had enough, took the full amount of our salt budget. That price was a huge increase last year. After we put this budget together for this year, actually, our salt price got for will be 2020 in the fall and the spring of 2021. Price went way down, so we're down to one of our lowest in a while. So I imagine we're going to have some surplus money in our salt budget for this year.
Are we able to acquire and stockpile when the prices are low?
We can acquire whatever we can store.
Okay.
There is a provision where we can pay the company to store it at their facility as well, but it's a little bit more expensive.
Okay.
Nate?
Tom?
Yeah,
Nate, if salt gets wet, or I don't know how damp, but when salt gets wet, it goes to rock salt again. It goes hard. Do we have any loss due to that?
our salt shed maintains a pretty good coverage on it. We're able to, we get a little bit of a cross sometimes on the outside. We're able to break it up with our fan loader. Some places actually use a tarp to try and cover it out in the open, but that's pretty difficult.
We don't really lose any?
We don't lose much to, no.
Suzanne, I think you had a question.
Well, I'm looking at this, and I don't know if you could see it. Anyways, I'm wondering, so for the full-time employees, the proposed budget is 238. From 2020, it was 233. From 2019, it was 223. Is that all increase from the wage increase that we voted on, or is there other things factored into that proposed?
Some of that, Mike could answer you. Some of that is step increases for employees when they reach milestones in their career. Some of that is cost of living increase in contracts, correct?
Yeah, each one of those line items, we build in the cost of living increase and then also any kind of step increases for the employees. So the longer the employee works at the city, the higher they are within the salary grade matrix. So what we're going to see on some of these line items is that they have reached the top of their pay, so there isn't necessarily any kind of increase for their step increases. And then also another thing that's built in is anytime an employee works for a long extended period of time, we usually see their vacation and sick time balances increase, and those need to be accounted for each year. So we build back those costs into the actual line items. Those are really the three factors that influence the salary line items.
Okay, that's all I have on that one.
Okay, anyone else? All right, on to the next department.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nate.
Thanks.
Thanks, Nate.
We'll go to public safety next. Again, the police protection budget for 2021 is projected to increase by that 1% from the 1,162,000 from the 1,150,000. Again, that's an estimate from the Anoka County at this time. And then the other category within public safety is our fire protection. Again, that's projected or proposed to increase by 17% from the 767,900 to the 899,700. Again, the big driver of that increase is the one additional FTE that's being considered and the adjustment to the 35 paid on call firefighters for their hourly rates. With that, I'll hand it over to Mark to answer any specific questions on his line items.
Before Mark begins, there will be a representative from the sheriff's office at our work meeting in August to review the proposed law enforcement contract. So we will continue this budget discussion at that time. And the sheriff's department will be here to explain and answer any questions you may have regarding the proposed 2021 law enforcement contract.
Okay.
Mark?
Good. Questions for
All right, thank you. The fire budget starts on the city council work meeting packet, page 52. And as Mike had said, most of the increase is in relation to personnel costs.
One question I have, Mark, is we had talked about this a couple months ago when we first declared our local emergency, was the potential of receiving any funding from either the feds or the state to help pay for some of the costs. Is there any status that you can report about that?
Yes, I can. The CARES Act, which is the Coronavirus Relief Act for local governments, that money was released by the governor, I think it was last week, 10 days ago. East Bethel's share of that would be $906,000 to offset direct virus costs. So possibly any cost associated for a response or anything like that will be covered. I think there's about $57,000 that has been earmarked, not only fire department, but also throughout the city of costs for that are directly related to coronavirus. That'll be part of the reimbursement, part of the $906,000. We'll be looking at some priorities to present to council as we move forward.
So, and how long are we eligible to draw or ask for reimbursement?
Well, that's a good question, Mayor. The timeline on this is, I believe it's November 15th. Expenditures have to be made for any offset on the $906,000 we were allotted. Any money that's left over will go back to the county, and the county will have until mid-December to use that in their allocation, and then they'll return any money that's left over to the state at the end of the year. So we'll have till November 15th for to make any expenditures that are part of that. Some of those might include, you know, some precautions we have to make for our elections coming up. Certainly, as I said before, that'll offset the total of approximately $57,000 of expenditures we've had so far. And there probably are a few projects that we'll want to finish off that are directly related to coronavirus.
So it sounds like it's safe to assume that as of now, any additional response costs that the city's had to the coronavirus is not, the net effect is going to be zero on our budget and our budget for next year because of this grant reimbursement.
Correct.
Okay, good.
And Mike and I are monitoring this, Jack also monitoring this very closely. We've sat through a webinar and have done extensive researches on our own. We've also looked at what other states are doing. Minnesota was one of the last states to release the money to the local governments. There'll be a certification that the council will be asked to approve, you know, before we receive any of those funds. And the way it works is once the state gets the certification, then the funds will be transferred to the city, and then we'll have to do monthly reports on that.
Okay.
Mark, I got a question for you. On that para coordinated plan, I see there's nothing for 18, 19, and 20. Is that, and then now 21, is that for the new fire inspector coming in at 11,400?
That's correct. City doesn't pay para on me, but they would on the new person.
Okay, thanks.
One other item I'd like to add to Mark's presentation about the CARES Act. One of the things that we've identified in our working from home assignments to employees, a weakness that we have is a lot of our files and information are still paper. One of the things that we're looking into that potentially, and it looks like it's going to qualify, would be the electronic transfer of this data into a file. That all of our information now would be electronically recorded. This is commonly called as Laserfiche. We're looking into this. Mark and I have explored the possibilities. It does look like it could be an eligible cost. So we would like to have something to council maybe in August for approval of a contract for this, if it is an eligible cost. And would also improve our abilities to work at home and not place a burden on staff members that are still left in the office to supply people with some of the information they need to work remotely.
Okay, good. Anyone else have a question for Chief tonight? All right.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Mark. Moving on.
Since this is moving on at a very good pace, the next category we will discuss is administration. That in your page 27 in your printed budget book, page 6 in your electronic packet.
Jack, can you interrupt real sec? Folks, if you're not talking, let's get on mute. There's a lot of background. Thanks. Go ahead.
All right. Under administration, we have several categories there. We have the city council expenditures, which are actually projected to go down from 81,400 in 2020 to $77,900 in 2021. The biggest reduction would be on what we're being charged by our WMOs for their administrative fee. We're going to be paying about $3,000 less. So this is the reason for the decrease in that budget. And I'll be hopefully able to answer any questions you may have if anybody has any questions on the city council expenditures under administration.
I have two questions on this one. Excuse me. All right, who gets the, for the WMOs, who gets that 10,400 and 11,600? Is that just used in their budget for their budget items, or is that, like, people on the boards get that?
No, that's just, their boards do not get paid. That's a voluntary organization. They're appointed by city councils, and that goes to the operation of their program.
All right, and then for the professional services, who does the quarterly updates of the ordinances and gets that $4,000?
That goes to city council. That's what we do, and that's paid to MuniCode. And that's the service that they charge us for updating their ordinance book.
Okay. All right, thanks. Just didn't know.
Are there any other questions for city council expenditures? If not, then moving on to administration. That is the budget item for the city administrators department, which includes 3 full-time employees. That increased from $389,100,000 to $427,200, primarily because of the SCORE monies that we get from the county have been deleted for administrative purposes going forward to be put to project use. So a portion of my salary and Cindy's salary was taken out of this. So it's no longer eligible, and that's the big reason for the increase for the 2021 cost as opposed to the 2020 cost.
Okay.
Any other questions? Moving on to elections.
Well, I have a question quick. That money that you said you're not eligible for, the salaries that are not eligible for, when did that start, and why did it end?
It ended upon the direction of the county and the monies that they received for the recycle program. And they wanted to see more monies going into projects and programs. So they eliminated the administrative expense at the local level.
Okay, so if that money ends, shouldn't it just not be applied anymore to the salaries?
Well, what it is, salaries of people are broken down from a number of sources. This was one of the sources that was funding these 2 positions. So in order to keep that funding at the same level, then we had to increase the general fund allocation to this line item.
In Cindy's and Jack's case, essentially the SCORE reporting still needs to get done. So that work still needs to get done, but we are no longer able to allocate a portion of Jack's salary and Cindy's salary to be refunded by the SCORE reporting. It's possible into 2021, there's a little portion of Cindy's salary that could be reimbursed, but at this point, we're just going to play it safe and say that they've eliminated those reallocations. So.
Okay, that makes more sense. Thanks.
Yep.
Moving on to elections, we see a significant decrease from 2020 to 21, basically because there is no election next year. So that was pretty well cut and dry. We'll see a decrease in expenses of $14,500 to $3,000. Moving on to finance, the increase will go from 304,700 in 2020 to 312,800 in 2021. And this is primarily due to an increase in salaries and an increase also in the combined cafeteria contribution that goes along with that. So these are basically just personnel cost increases. Any questions on this department? And moving on to assessing, our assessor's cost is going up from projected to be from 58,000 in 2020 to $60,500 in 2021. Main reason for this increase is the number of parcels for assessment increases annually. The cost per parcel remains the same, but the number of parcels created by subdivisions, lot splits, and any creation of any new land that's recorded or platted results in an increased number of parcels, which increases the cost of the contract.
Okay.
Moving on to legal, if there's no questions about the assessor.
Question. So in 2020, how is it that we're we're over halfway through the year and it's not even a third of the budget yet?
We paid the assessor quarterly. We paid him for the first quarter, which was a payment in April. The next quarter we'll be paying him in July. So then we'll owe him 2 more payments in October and December.
Okay, I get it. Thanks.
Moving on to legal, we're projecting that the 2020 budget of $145,000 will increase to $151,000. Basically, this is built into the fact that we're requiring more legal services than we have in the past, especially for some projects that we're working on. Generally, though, we've been under this amount. Hopefully that'll be the case this year, but if not, then we have the balance to cover it for 2021 with this approval of this expenditure.
Jack, on this particular item, since we are going to go to a mediation service, will we be seeing any benefits from that? Thanks.
This will not impact that budget since this is related to a project cost. It'll come out of the project costs for that road project itself, and it won't be charged to legal.
Okay, moving on.
I think that covers that under the administrative portion. Mike, if you would go through the bond expenditures we have and let's review those.
Sure. Again, at the end of 2020, we'll have 4 bond issues remaining with roughly $17.1 million in principal balances. The 2008 principal payment for 2021 will be this $110,000. Actually, I'm going to go to the summary. This is our 2021 proposed budget. Again, the levies are proposed to be $1,104,500. So that is a reduction from the prior year, and the driver in that is this 2008 bond issue, which we are proposing to decrease to 65,000, which will then cash flow the bond for the remaining life. Again, under the expenditures, we are looking at roughly $545,000 in principal reductions for 2021. We are looking at roughly $572,175 in interest payments, and then another $6,000 in fiscal agent fees. Those are fees that we pay in order to service the bonds. So when we pay the actual bond payment, they take that money and then actually distribute the funds to the bondholders. The bonds we have on the books again is the 2013A, which is the former 2005A bond. We refinanced that 2013. These bonds were originally issued to fund a replacement fire station and warning sirens. We also have the 2008 bond issue on the book still. That was issued to fund the cost of the Castle Towers wastewater treatment plant. Also on the books is the 2015A, which is the former 2010A, which we refinanced in 2015. These were issued to fund the construction of the water sewer infrastructure improvements on 65. And then we have the 2014A, which is the former 2010B, which we refinanced in 2014. And these were issued to fund the construction of the water sewer infrastructure improvements on 65 as well. With that, are there any questions on the debt service component of our budget?
I have a question. So the total that we owe on the bottom of this spreadsheet, where I think you know which one I'm talking about. It kind of has everything you have there. What we totally owe, is it the principal due 2021 to 2040 plus the interest due 2021 to 2040? Is that the whole total of everything if I added all those up?
Yep, that is correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure I know what I'm adding up here. Thanks.
Yep.
Question, Mike.
Yep.
Well, I've been looking forward to that 2008 news for a long time. But with the reduced expenditure from the 2008 and 2015, I think it was, is still with consideration for the prepaid penalties, what paying up front. Is there a limitation, or can the money saved from the 2008 go towards the principal of 2015?
Yeah, there's a number of different ways you can do that. The 2008A bond issue is currently, are able to refinance that, or as we have kind of explored in the past, just paying it off in full. And then yes, anytime you pay that off, then we wouldn't need to levy for it, and therefore you could apply that portion of the levy towards any other line items within your budget. So, or you could just leave it out completely. So what worked nice in this budget is we were able to reduce that levy for 2008A, and then we were able to fund that fire department position without the full impact of that position being added. So that's why the levy itself is only increasing to 2.2%. So we've kind of used the savings from that 2008A bond issue and applied it to the general fund levy.
There hasn't been any discussion or thought about applying towards 2015. This went pretty much towards the fire department.
Yep, that's correct. We kind of used the savings for the 2008 bond issue, and we're able to soften the increase in the actual overall levy for 2021.
I maybe shouldn't ask because it sounds like it's a done deal. Did anybody look at what kind of savings there might have been on interest cost with 2015?
Yeah, one of the things with the 2015A bond is it's not actually callable right now, so there would be no potential savings at this point. All you would be doing is putting it into its own cash account to kind of just sit there until it's potentially callable.
Yeah. That's kind of the answer to my first question, if they're callable yet or not.
Yep.
And
The only one that's actually callable at this specific time is the 2008 A bond issue.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep. And one other thing to note on there is Ellers does do an analysis on a annual basis to see if any one of these bond issues, if it is callable, if it is actually, if the potential savings outweighs the cost, and they do that analysis on an annual basis to see if it is worthwhile to refinance it. At this point, it isn't. The only option really for the 2008 bond at this point is just to pay it off in its entirety in order to have a savings.
When we did some of the refinancing in 2013, I think it was, of the 2010 issues, we were able to refinance at a lower cost and save, I think one was about $1.5 million and close to $2.5, $3 million, wasn't it, Jack?
Probably total, that would be correct, Tom.
And without adding any time on the back end. So it was good news on both ends of it, that cut the cost of it, but didn't extend any time. Is that being considered on any of these future talks? If you refinance a bond, it's like refinancing your house. If you go from a 15-year note that you're 10 years into and you do another 15-year note, you just tack 15 years onto your time.
Right. Yeah, that analysis has been done by Ellers for the 2008 A bond issue, but not for any of the remaining of them because they're not callable at this point.
Yeah.
And at this point, they said that it wasn't fiscally, there wasn't any savings to be had to refinance, only if to pay it off in its entirety. So,
and what you explained about the cash, just dead cash laying there,
yeah,
that's, you could just well put it in the mattress.
Right. And one of the things that's happened to our investment holdings that we do have in cash right now is our, all of our investments are, the interest rates have kind of tanked at this point. So.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, there's 3 or 4 other smaller items that I will go over here. One of them is the engineering portion of our proposed city budget. That cost in 2020 was for $40,000, and we're using the same figure for that cost for 2021. So that's for our engineering contractual services. Those are the services that we kind of use on a daily basis with Hackinson Anderson to give us cost estimates, to get information from our city engineer on projects. Again, that's one that we've always generally been under budget on, so we're hoping we'll see the same effects of that for 2021. Are there any questions on the city engineer's budget? If not, the next item is civic events. That's the budget we have for $5,000. It's been allocated for the fireworks show for Booster Day. For 2020, that money will not be spent and go back to the general fund because of the cancellation of the event. And we do project to have another $5,000 allocation for Booster Day for fireworks for 2021.
So I have a question on this one. So if the 5,000 isn't used for 2020, why wouldn't it go to be $10,000 for 2021?
There's no need to carry it over because we anticipate the cost of the event would be $5,000, and there's no need to carry a balance in that account. Just allocate the funds for whatever the projected use is for that. So those monies would be returned to the general fund for allocation of other line items or to be left out and used for other purposes.
Okay, thanks.
Moving on to transfers, we have 4 transfer items in the budget. The first one is transfers to building capital. We've kept this at $50,000 the last several years, and we project this to be $50,000 also for 2021. These funds are used to support maintenance and project activities for our capital facilities, City Hall, water treatment plant, Whispering Aspens Community Center, all of our public facility buildings, with the exception of our ice arena, which is a separate fund, an enterprise fund in and of itself. The other transfer that we have here is the street capital fund. We propose no increases to that for 2021 and have it remain at $475,000 for the upcoming year. The transfer to the Parks Capital Fund is proposed to be raised by $5,000, increasing that amount to $90,000 annually. This is in an effort to get Parks Capital transfer back up to $100,000, which what it was in 2011 before it was cut by 50% due to budget reductions at that time. So we're starting near our goal for that. And the other is a land purchase, which we did back 2 years ago. There may be another item from the general fund in that for 2021, but we're just waiting to see the outcome of some negotiations we're currently engaged in. So that's what we have in regards to transfers and land purchase for 2021. Any questions on those? The last two items will be our EDA and HRA levies. Our EDA levy is proposed to increase from $113,500 in 2020 to $121,200 in 2021. The bulk of these funds will be used for transfer back to the general fund to support staff activities for EDA purposes. And the HRA levy is proposed to increase from $62,600 to $69,500 for 2021 for the same reasons. Most of this money will be used to transfer back to the general fund to support HRA staff activities.
Can you be more specific on what it's going to be used for when it gets transferred back? I'm a little confused at why this increase, because it just seems like a lot.
Well, percentage wise, it looks like a lot. Dollar wise, it's not as big as it seems. But the general use of these funds will be to support the city administrator, the community development director, the finance administrator, and the support staff for conducting EDA activities. It'll also be used to finance or pay for EDA projects such as our outreach and marketing programs. The HRA monies will be used to support staff activities of the community development director, the zoning administrator, the assistant administrator for community development to do their work. Also, the city administrator and the finance director for HRA projects, housing related projects. These things also relate and tie into some of our economic development activities also. There'll be some balance left, and those funds can be used for other project activities as they arise in the coming year.
Okay.
So with that, you have an overview of what our proposed preliminary budget is. Again, the last item that we need some explanation and answers on is the law enforcement contract, and there will be a representative from the sheriff's office here, as I spoke earlier, to make that presentation at our August work meeting. One thing that I would like to add is in discussions in our finance committee meetings, we've been looking for ways to do budget reductions. One of the things that has been kind of kicked around as an idea is some of our existing commissions are maybe a little bit being underutilized. We've looked at an idea of maybe combining roads and parks, or just eliminating one of the commissions at this time. Most cities don't have a roads commissions. Essentially to eliminate a commission in hard costs, save us $3,200 a year. These costs are the members' fees that we pay, recording secretary's fees, postage, copying, rentals of equipment for tours of projects. Also, we'd be saving staff time of approximately 60 hours for Nate on either one of these for parks or roads. For Cindy Hilliard's time for preparing packets of about 15 hours, and Carrie Frost time of about 15 to 20 hours a year for conversion of recordings for YouTube and for the information that we have to send to the recording secretary so she'll be able to open a file to do the minutes. So this is one of the things that we've kicked around and may want to discuss in the future as we go down the road, and evaluate also the performance of both of these commissions and see what the most efficient use of their staff time that we devote to them is and what they can most effectively contribute to the city as far as the review and advisory board. If there's no questions on, excuse me,
So,
Steve.
Jack, when would we discuss that?
Excuse me,
When would we discuss, when would we do it?
whenever we can just add it to the next work meeting if you'd like to.
So part of the discussion we had at finance, and actually discussion's been going on for probably almost a year now, is if there is there a better way to achieve, what we're doing with our current model of having a roads commission and, reporting to council? Is there a more efficient way to do that work basically? And particularly when we consider how much time that Nate needs to spend with roads, preparing and, I don't want to say what's the value coming back from roads, but what kind of what would we lose if we didn't have a roads commission? Maybe that's the question I ask for Nate and Jack.
I can just jump in real quick. One of the issues we have with the road commission that we don't have with some of the other commissions, we're having a hard time keeping this positions filled. We've had one open position now since November. Members we do have on there are extremely knowledgeable on roads issues, and they're great for our city. Talking with some of my colleagues in other cities, what they typically do is what's called a road commission, or road committee, made up of maybe 2 elected officials, a city engineer, public works manager, sometimes a citizen advisory personnel as well. And that could be an option that we look at. Right now, we have 1 open seat. I have 1 member who's going to be moving out of the city. We'll have 2 open seats. And we also have the issue with people that are on multiple commissions. So it's something that we kind of brainstorming as a way to try and make things more efficient.
And one of the things you lose without it is the public communication of those issues and questions and problems, et cetera. And going back a ways, I can't think of the guy's name, the guy from that worked for Fridley. Yep. He probably knew more than anybody in our city.
Jeff was basically the same kind of position as the superintendent for Fridley. He was very knowledgeable resource.
That may never happen again, but there's a certain amount of expertise, input that you might not expect.
Yep.
Thank you.
And like I said, our road commissioners they have now are really knowledgeable. They ask great questions and they know a lot about how things work. Maybe a way to do like a hybrid where we keep some citizen advisors on a commission, something to think about, I guess.
Hey, Jack, I got a question for you. On the other cities around here, do they have roads commissions like Ham Lake, St. Francis, any of them?
We're one of the very few cities that has a roads commission.
Okay, okay.
And roads commissions and parks commissions are not required by statute. The only
Okay.
commission that's required by statute is the planning commission.
Okay, thank you.
We're bigger than most cities though. We're 48 square miles.
It seems to me that probably the most important thing that roads provides to council is the CIP every year and the planning. And if that's the case, I mean, you talked about forming a committee. I would assume that's what that committee would be for, to help prepare that plan. Is that true?
That would be a big part of their function. That's correct.
Okay, so
You
so
know,
if we took that route, we could tap into, you know, previous commission members that have that experience with our city. Is that what you're suggesting?
that would be one of it. You know, currently one of the things that the road commission did in the past was to review plats and project proposals. And, you know, we currently have that level of review at 3 or 4 different stages, not to say that another set of eyes doesn't improve it, but it's not a very efficient way to get things done either. It's time consuming by the time everybody lays eyes on their portion of it and makes a report back to whomever needs the information. Sometimes it can take 6 to 8 weeks. What we're liking to do, like you said, is to try to find the most efficient way to get some of this done and streamline some of our process.
Okay.
And I think as all of us have seen, you know, we're working in a little bit more fast-tracked environment when it comes to development now. Previously, when development was talked about, it was generally just a subdivision. And now it's something that takes sometimes immediate reaction and immediate attention to. And we want to be in a position to be able to respond to those issues.
Yeah, definitely helps people. Any thoughts from others? Do we want to discuss this further at another work meeting? I see a couple thumbs up. There we go. Okay, let's add it to our August work meeting. So
I have one other thing I'd like to bring up. It won't take just a minute to go over this. As I stated previously, one of the issues that we found was a little bit of a problem for us, for people working at home, was access their database of information. A big portion of it still paper files, essentially things considering plats, property record files that are needed by the community development department. So when those people are working at home, a lot of times then they have to call in and somebody has to look the information up and scan it to them. Again, we're working, Mark and I are working to see what this electronic data transfer may be a possibility to be eligible, get information if it is eligible for this CARES Act money. By enabling more people to work from home, I think it's going to be a trend in the future. We may be dealing with this COVID-19 thing for several years too, and continue in this situation for a while. The other thing that we've identified too is our telephone system. Our system is not really set up good for transferring calls to at-home workers. We can get it done, but a lot of times it's not as efficient as it needs to be. And the other issue is that backup for answering phones becomes a problem when certain people are absent or certain people are working from home. What we'd like to do is consider an auto menu and have a phone tree that directs people directly to the person they're trying to contact, rather than have them go through the receptionist or directly to the building department to again have the call transferred again. We would like this to be a consideration of council and present something to you at the meeting on the 27th to see if you're interested in getting this approved and getting it implemented prior to elections. Once the election season starts this year, it's going to be very difficult for at least 2 and possibly 3 of our people to keep up with what we think is going to be a high volume of absentee ballot voting, which is going to take a lot of their time from phone answering responsibilities. And this would be an invaluable tool in helping us deal.
Jack, can you put together an estimate then for both of these items that you're discussing and add it to the next finance work meeting that we are all going to be a part of so that we can discuss the pros and cons and know what the financial liability will be for upgrading our systems? Thanks.
If it's possible, Randy, and with everyone's approval, I'd like to just send an update out and actually have this discussed at the July 27th council meeting, specifically the phone issue, the roads commission thing. We can include that at our next work meeting to discuss that. But if we're going to do this, it would be very beneficial to us if we go in this direction to implement it before the election season starts in August.
Let's see, Mark is still here too. Would anything related to that phone, the phone improvement, or anything similar to that, would that be eligible under the CARES? Because, and actually, even the additional cost for running the election, I mean, isn't that should be part of that reimbursement or eligible for reimbursement?
I'll have to take a look at the phone system. I don't readily have an answer for that. There are going to be certain costs that are directly related for elections as far as coronavirus, and we're going to try to capture all those that we can. So this is still a work in progress, Mayor.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Mark, as long as you're on those lines, how about this, we're giving this credit back to these, our bars and stuff like that, that 5,800 or 5,500, would that be something that we could look at too, and maybe getting back?
What we have to be careful of, well, first of all, Council, in the CARES Act, there is a provision for helping out businesses. I just have to be sure that what we're doing on the rebate on the liquor license is within protocol. So I don't have an answer on that. I want to take in consideration that what we do for one business, we can do for another business.
Okay.
So that's why I kind of hesitate on giving you a direct answer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there anything else regarding budget tonight? Okay, very good. Good work meeting. We only went 3 minutes over, so and got through the entire budget, so that's good. So unless there's anything else, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Suzanne seconds. Jack, could you take roll call vote, please?
Councilman Ronning.
Aye.
Councilperson Urkel.
Aye.
Councilperson Harrington.
Aye.
Councilperson Plassance.
Aye.
Mayor Voss.
Aye. I want to thank our department heads, Mike and Mark and Stephanie and Nate, for all being here tonight. And with that, we will adjourn tonight's work meeting. Have a good evening.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.